On the front line of the UK, hospitals stand fighting for the health of a nation. 1.3 million NHS staff work among us every day making sacrifices to look after us all. Since the first NHS hospital first hit Britain in 1948, the NHS has saved countless lives, increased our life expectancy by 13 years and served the people with expertise in medicine and exemplary care. A system that charges nothing to those who couldn't otherwise afford healthcare. And yet there are so many of us that still don't know how to support our workers. So do you know anyone that works in the NHS?
Yeah, I know quite a few people that work in the NHS, and a lot of them are really nice people and stuff.
Do you know, I don't think I can. I've never worked in a hospital, and apart from the occasional visit, I've never seen what it's like on the front line.
I think they're grateful for it, but I don't think they do enough to show appreciation. And it's like drawing a rainbow and everything. I know it's nice getting the community together, but it's not really making change for them. It's like, no, give them extra pay. Why don't you go and volunteer? Why don't you help out with little tasks that you can help with?
Try and help out in any way you can. Don't, do unnecessary things. Go to A&E when you don't need to for a bloody nose, kind of stuff like that.
With the UK's army of medical professionals, it's likely that all of us know at least one member of the NHS personally, whether it's a family member or a friend. NHS jobs can be the hardest jobs in the country, and still our NHS workers are taken for granted. This is their story. I'm off on a journey to find out the truth about our NHS friends and what it's really like to spend a day in their shoes.
So I'm a senior sister in critical care, and what that means is I look after critically ill patients, what people might perceive as intensive care. I'm responsible for anything to do with the quality of that care. It's quite a challenging job. It's a big job for one person. I often find a conflict in terms of how much work I've got to do, and actually managing to achieve that, the amount of initiatives that you're trying to push, the amount of meetings to attend, and actually sometimes just getting the headspace to do your job is very difficult. I think my younger patient group are always very difficult. They're young people, they're under 25. It always feels very wrong when a young person passes away. I think I've been in situations before where I've had to speak to a young person about the fact that they were not going to survive beyond their teenage years, and that's not a conversation anybody wants to have. Afterwards it did make me feel it was something I had to do, but I didn't know whether it should have been done.
For many NHS workers, it's commonplace to find themselves in difficult situations because of their job roles. Many of their responsibilities are quite different from what they thought in their original job descriptions.
So my name's Lee Oughton. I'm a GP, and I'm a GP that works in urgent care and GP out of hours care. Most of that time where it's difficult is outweighed by the times where it's a really enjoyable job. And I get a lot of satisfaction in my job when I can see that I've made a difference for patients. I actually lead the GP out of hours service and the urgent care service, and I've got a really lovely team. They're really dedicated people. So lots of them had been interviewed ready to take up new roles just before COVID hit. So they came in expecting a role where they'd have a consulting room and they'd be seeing patient after patient after patient. And actually they were told, yeah, we can't really do that at the minute because of COVID. So now I want you to stand in a car park with some PPE on, and I want you to screen every patient, I want you to check everybody's temperatures, I want you to be a security guard and not let people in that don't need to be here.
It's clear that healthcare workers have to deal with situations most of us couldn't even imagine. To find out just how severe some of these situations can be, I'm going to speak with Jackie to find out her experiences.
I'm Jaqueline McGrath and I'm a healthcare support worker. I've worked there for 13 years. I've been on all the wards. I've seen loads of sad situations. We've got to watch people trying to kill themselves. You know, ligature points. We've had a lady once went into a room and she managed to get a sheet cut and she was hanging on the toilet. We deal with a lot of negativity with a lot of patients. We get a lot of anger, we get a lot of shouting at, name calling, we've been attacked. We've been attacked lots of times. We've just had a young girl not long ago who was getting discharged, Christmas there, and all happy about being discharged, but she felt quite vulnerable. She'd been in the hospital a while. She'd went to a room and she managed to hang herself, but she pressed the buzzer for help. The buzzer didn't work, and when I wasn't there at the time, but when we got her, she was dead. They had to take her into hospital and she was brain dead, all within seconds.
What people don't often realise is that NHS staff can struggle quite a lot when serving our people. It's thought that 67% of NHS workers suffer with anxiety as a result of their job, and a further 55% of staff have reported experiencing depression directly linked with their work.
I try not to get emotional at work, but when I do come home, it can be very mentally exhausting, and you can feel quite drained when you come home, which then means you might not have as much to give to your family at home, because actually you know your head's already full and you just want to sit quiet, and then you feel guilty for giving your emotions in your job, and then actually maybe you can't give what you want to your children and your family.
Sometimes it will affect you. There have been times when it's dwelling on your mind. It's hard to sleep sometimes because of a decision you've made or something that you're concerned about, or just somebody's story that's impacted you in some way. So it can affect you.
And for me, getting upset used to be the thing that would happen when I woke up the following morning and relived the things and thought, oh, should we have done this and did we do that and what else could we have done to make this right?
Although the job can be very challenging, more than 6,000 students join the NHS every year to fight for the greater good. I got the opportunity to speak today with one of these students to see if it was how they imagined it was going to be.
I'm Hannah Ledgeway and I'm a second year student paramedic. I always knew I wanted to be in the healthcare industry. It weren't until actually experiencing a ride in the back of an ambulance, that really clarified that that's what I wanted to do. When you get to a job, it does leave you on edge. Are you doing things right? It makes you question things, because it has been weeks, if not months, before you went to a job similar to that. Some jobs I've had to take a step back and think, what am I doing? Am I really capable of being in charge of leading a job like this? It's not a job that you could go into just because it's there, because it is very traumatic and there is a lot of things that do affect daily living outside of work.
It isn't just the students that find themselves under pressure. In fact, the majority of healthcare workers often find themselves in particularly difficult situations.
I was looking after a lady on a care of the elderly ward whose daughter had been visiting every day, and every day, along with a consultant, I'd reviewed this lady on a ward round, and every day we'd put a plan in place of what we were going to do to get her better and get her closer to getting home. And every day, something else happened that meant she was a bit more poorly. And over a period of about a week, it wasn't a very long time, it got to a point where this lady was actually dying. My role was to try and make sure that I could get her to have whatever her wishes were, so that she could die a comfortable, peaceful dignified death. And her wish to me was that she could go home. So she wanted to go home, to die at home. I wasn't able to do that. So I think back to that experience, and I felt so awful that I wasn't able to do what I promised. When I broke the news to her daughter, I burst into tears. And I think some of that just sort of explains how emotional the job can be sometimes. I don't think I've ever hardened to that. I don't think you ever do.
As well as being almost crushed by the amount of responsibilities they face, workers are being bombarded with the amount of shifts they have to work in a week, with a never-ending stream of hours.
My shifts are 10 hours, but it's never 10 hours.
For our clinical staff, they work 12-hour shifts, 12-hour days, 12-hour nights, starting at 7, and then they finish around 20 to 8 in the evening.
On my days where I work clinically, my longest day, I start at 8 o'clock in the morning and I finish at 10 o'clock at night.
This week I do loads of shifts, and it's like I'm full time, but 12 hours with mentally ill, 12 hours with patients that are really quite demanding. It's quite hard to stay on focus, and it is hard, and I've cut my hours down. But since I've cut my hours down, they phone me every day. Could I help them out? Because we're short of staff.
It goes without saying, coronavirus has had a massive impact on many of these outcomes.
My name's Dianne Sidebottom. I work at Northern General Hospital on the spinal injuries. Go on the ward, say hello to everybody, even the patients, because they love to see me, because I cheer them up. I'm a bubbly person. And I love to see the faces when I come up ward, and they'll say, oh, Diane's here, or she'll make us a cup of tea, or cheer us up, which I do. You tell you not to get involved, but you do get involved. A patient that's had COVID, what we're on this particular ward, he was like getting better from COVID, but he was so terrified, and he just kept crying and saying, am I going to die? And that is, not very nice. Because he couldn't see his family. And he was just so scared, bless him. Even we are ourselves from getting it, but obviously we still carry on, but you're still scared, to take it home to your family.
However, at the minute, 220,000 patients are currently waiting for routine operations from the NHS. This is a situation that, of course, many people have found frustrating, but for the staff that see the fallout from these situations, many NHS workers believe that the public don't fully understand that they're not really to blame for these situations.
There's been a big backlog of lots of people who've been waiting to see their doctors or holding on to these symptoms, not telling us about them. So the workload recently has really increased.
There's a lot more preparation before you get to a job. You've got to, when you get there, you've got to put gloves on, you've got to put an apron, you've got to put a mask on, you've got to put a full suit on. And by the time you get to the job, you've spent 10 minutes on the ambulance getting ready before you've even been in. And that 10 minutes is crucial to whether someone lives or someone dies.
We do interact sometimes with the public where there is a lack of awareness, and the public's expectations of the NHS are getting greater.
In fairness, we're at a point now where it feels like it's getting a little bit fragile. It feels like a deck of cards that there's not much more that they could take before that deck of cards would just fall over.
For Ward Green Care Home, the staff here have been hit quite significantly by the coronavirus.
My name's Wendy Waddington. I'm the home manager of the 66 purpose-built home for residential and dementia clients.
My name's Lucy and I'm the compliance manager for Ward Green.
Well, at the minute we've got a good set of district nurses and we've got a good end-of-life team. So we managed to get through, and we've got she's called cumulative matron. So between the cumulative matron and the Macmillans and our district nurses, there's been a massive support. We all are for each other. We couldn't have gone through it without them because we got left. We got left. There were no social workers, no GPs, no nothing. We were just left.
Nobody were bothered, were there?
No.
Nobody. Other than them, who Wendy's mentioned, any other outside agency that we usually deal with on a regular basis disappeared. We'd got nobody at all.
We had one lady that were really poorly and we ran for paramedics to come, and they came and they said, oh, look, we're going to leave her here. And I said, she needs seeing to. She's not well. And they said, no, she needs to stop here. And I said, no, you need to take her in. This is not COVID. We know the signs and symptoms. You need to take her. And I created a bit saying, nobody's bothered about us as being left. And they took her, didn't they? Because I played out and she got sepsis.
So you have to sort of really fight to get your voice heard sometimes.
Yeah, we did in the pandemic.
Right in middle on it, we're not on about more recently, this is right in middle when everything was kicking off everywhere. We were just left to our own devices, weren't we? There weren't anybody, nobody were interested. Nobody were interested.
It isn't only coronavirus that has impacted the way people treat healthcare workers. Sadly, 15% of healthcare workers have reported being physically abused by a patient or their family members while working.
So I used to be the GP for the violent patients in Barnsley, so patients who had been kicked off the list from their own doctors for violent behaviour. They'd come in with security guards to see me, but I mean that way you felt safe because you had the security guards. Actually it's the patients that you don't know that are violent can be more stressful sometimes. So yeah, I've had patients that have threatened me because I used to live in this area as well. Then patients, someone would say the sort of thing, oh, I know where you live, that sort of thing, if they don't get the medication that they want.
With all they have to go through, you'd assume that our hardest working heroes would get the paycheck they deserve at the end of the month. The hours are long and hard, but in reality, the average NHS salary is only £31.4 thousand a year. To put this into perspective, this is below what a policewoman or even a primary school teacher would make. An MP official would make closer to £82,000 per year. This is almost a £50,000 price difference to NHS workers.
I think it is really difficult when we start thinking about what people get paid and what people are worth. I work with some very dedicated colleagues, and I sometimes reflect on how little some of my colleagues get paid, regardless of what they have to do.
I never went into this job for money. I think I went into it for different reasons, but everybody has to put food on their table, and I think people do get upset when we don't get a pay rise.
I don't think it's fair enough. It's not all about money, but we should be on a lot more. All the staff should be on a lot more than what we're getting now. It's ridiculous.
I mean, we've got 1% pay rise, didn't we? 1%, but we got a lot of claps. We did get a lot of claps.
Is it enough?
No.
Being a healthcare worker is one of the most rewarding jobs there is, but we can all do more to help our friends out in the NHS, to help them, to help us.
I would just say to the public, respect the NHS, don't abuse it. It's not an unlimited resource, but yeah, it's the finest institution in the world, and what we do in the NHS should not be taken for granted.
We are only human. As much as we're in the green uniform, we're in the big yellow ambulance, we're human and that's all we're ever going to be. We've got no special abilities. We're not going to be able to magically make someone better by clicking us fingers.
People complain about the NHS, about the waiting list, time they're waiting. They always pull the NHS down, but even I used to do that before I worked there, but now I've been working there over 5 years. You get to see what it's like, and it is stressful, emotional, hard work.
So sometimes it's just thinking about how am I contributing to this, and am I making the queue a little bit longer by asking for something that I don't actually need?
There is a bright future for everyone in our NHS, but they need our help to get there.
Can I just say a big thank you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd just like to say thank you to everybody that's supported us in the last 12 months. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody that supported NHS. We all so appreciate it and feel really grateful. Thank you so much.